Welcome back. Police arresting a former official who served in President Obama's National Security Council after videos show him berating a New York City food vendor on multiple occasions. Watch.
You're a terrorist. You support terrorism.
Listen, go. I'm not support something.
You do. You support terrorism.
I'm not some. Go.
If we killed 4,000 Palestinian kids, you know what? It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough.
That man in the video, Stuart Seldowitz, served as the acting director for the NSC's South Asia Directorate in the early 2000s. He's facing charges including a hate crime, stalking, and second-degree aggravated harassment. Jason Rantz, Seattle radio host, joins us to talk about it. Jason, happy Thanksgiving. This video is crazy, and it's not once or twice, multiple times. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I saw a few of the videos. At first, I thought maybe this person's inebriated. I couldn't quite understand why he was doing what he was doing. And the language is vile. There's no doubt about it. What bothers me about incidents like this beyond the obvious is that there is a conversation going on right now about anti-Semitism versus Islamophobia. We have clearly seen a rise in anti-Semitism across the country, and folks will usually try to conflate the two, or they'll compare the two and say that they're about equal. They're not equal, but they'll be able to use this particular incident to make that claim. And then number two, as vile as I thought a lot of the language was, clearly something was the trigger here. Not that it would justify any of the language, but I am kind of curious why it is that he chose this individual vendor as many times as he did. And it feels like there might be a little bit more to the story where we could say, yes, this was an overreaction. Clearly he should not have done what he did, but maybe this is why he did it, just to try to provide some context to it.
Well, like what do you think is the background usage? I mean, look, at the end of the day, condemning all forms of hate and enforcing violations of all hate crimes is the goal law enforcement wants to get to. You would agree with that, but you suggest there may be more at play here than just his Islamophobia on display there.
Yeah, because it's not like he couldn't find any other vendor to pick on for a variety of different reasons. He chose this individual. And what first came to mind was we've obviously been seeing a lot of the flyers being torn down of Israeli hostages. That's the first thing that came to mind. Now, right now, that's completely baseless. I wholly admit that, because all we have are these videos showing one side of a vile conversation. Again, to your point, we should all be condemning this. There's no justification for it. I am just curious as to what was the trigger behind it.
We'll see if there's any arrests today in that pro-Palestinian march. You're seeing some demonstrators at the Macy's Day Parade there at the bottom right of your screen. We're keeping an eye on that. Let me get in one more topic with you, though, Jason, because this one took me back. California is now required to teach students how to recognize fake news. I'm not making that up. Schools will incorporate media literacy into lessons in English, science, math, and history classes throughout every grade level. The bill was signed by Governor Gavin Newsom last month. Now, a new op-ed headlined the newest Democratic propaganda in schools, fake news classes. It reads in part this, quote, "This is yet another example of California Democrats inserting their agenda into schools that are among the worst in the country in order to set narratives, not to teach students whom these schools are already failing." You're out there on the West Coast. What is going on?
Yeah, and it's not just in California, unfortunately, that these kinds of things are happening. Look, at the end of the day, I do think that people have to be better consumers of news, but this is not the solution. You've got the people who are radical educators who pushed all of the Trump demonization, pushing Russiagate, telling us things that were frankly not true, were true, and then things that were true, not true. So I wouldn't necessarily trust these people to be the arbiters of what is or is not fact versus fiction, or fact versus opinion versus just an objective truth. That's the problem I have with all of this. And let's be clear, if this was a Republican governor, if this was Governor Sanders coming out there saying, oh, no, we're going to push this, everyone would be outraged. They would be calling this propaganda. They would be saying that there is an interest from the conservative government for pushing this upon kids. How about take all the politics out of the classroom, have general conversations about being smarter consumers of news, but leave it at that? Because the second that you get some of these people who are telling us what's misinformation, and you go into their background and you realize, well, they happen to be partisans and they happen to be far to the left, well, all of a sudden it sort of dismisses the whole point of it.
And, you know, Jason, you raise a good point. It's not just in California. It's also in Delaware, Illinois, New Jersey. But as goes California often, goes the rest of the country. Jason Rantz, thanks for joining us. Have a great, happy, and safe Thanksgiving.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.